Welcome back, everyone. Next, we got chapter 18 on philosophy by Mental Chemistry, or in the book Mental Chemistry by Charles F. Haanel. Sorry, I'm a little tired. I've been reading all day, sharing these videos, because this stuff is very important, and I couldn't have been more than happy to be the open channel to get it out to you. Just bear with me. We're almost done. We have about 20 pages left. Maybe not even. 20. Yeah, exactly 20 pages left. I said that I was going to finish this book today, so I'm going to finish it today. So let's get started. Mental Chemistry, Chapter 18, Philosophy. Physical science has resolved matter into molecules, molecules into atoms, atoms into energy, and it has remained for Mr. J.A. Fleming, in an address before the Royal Institution, to resolve this energy into mind. He says, in its ultimate essence, energy may be incomprehensible by us except as an exhibition of the direct operation of that which we call mind or will. Energy may be incomprehensible by us except as an exhibition of the direct operation of that which we call mind or will. So basically that means energy is a manifestation of mind. That is very interesting, because God is love and energy is vibrations. Let's say a plant, for example. If a plant dies, its life source is left, and what happens is its energy starts to deplete. And when the energy starts to deplete, the vibrations lower. When the vibrations lower, it starts to wither, then it gets brown, and then eventually it'll deteriorate and become back into one with the earth, which is spring forth from, at least the physical aspect of what that plant is anyway. We find, therefore, that science and religion are not in conflict, but are in perfect agreement. Mr. Leyland makes this quite plain in an article on world making. He says, first, there is a wisdom that has planned and so adjusted all the parts of the universe in such a perfect balance that there is no friction. And as the universe is infinite, the wisdom that has planned it must be infinite too. Secondly, there is a will that has fixed and ordained the activities and forces of the universe, and bound them by laws, inflexible and eternal. And everywhere this omnipotent will has established the limitations and directions of the energies and processes, and has fixed their everlasting stability and uniformity. And as the universe is infinite, this will must be infinite. And thirdly, there is a power that sustains and moves, a power that never wearies, a power which controls all forces, and, as is the universe is infinite, the power must be infinite too. What shall we name this infinity trinity? Wisdom, will, and power. Science knows no simpler name for it than God. This name is all-embracing. We can conceive something of its meaning, though we cannot comprehend its significance, and this being is the indwelling ultimate. He is immanent in matter, as in spirit, and to him all law, force, life must be referred. He is the sustaining, energizing, all-pervading spirit of the universe. Every living thing must be sustained by the omnipotent intelligence, and we find the difference in individual lives to be largely measured by the degree of this intelligence which they manifest. It is a greater intelligence that places the animal in the higher scale of being than the plant, the man higher than the animal, and we find this increased intelligence is again indicated by the power of the individual to control modes of action and thus consciously adjust himself to his environment. It is this adjustment that occupies the attention of the greatest minds, and this adjustment consists of nothing else than the recognition of an existing order in the universal mind. For it is well known that this mind will obey us precisely in proportion as we first obey it. God in the world gives us exactly what we ask of Him, but we only receive it when we make ourselves worthy of receiving it, when we do our part to make it ours. When we do our part, God does the rest. For the universal can only express himself through the individual. The individual can only express himself through the universal. As we increase in experience and development, there is a corresponding increase in the exercise of the intellect, in the range and power of feeling, in the ability to choose, in the power to will, in all executive action, in all self-consciousness. That would mean that self-consciousness is increasing, expanding, growing, developing, and enlarging. It increases and develops because it is a spiritual activity. We multiply our possession of spiritual things in proportion to our use of them. All material things are consumed in the using. There is a diametrically opposite law governing the use of the spiritual and the material. Life is that quality or principle of the universal energy which manifests in so-called organic objects as growth and voluntary activity, and which is usually coexistent in some degree with some manifestation of that same universal energy as a quality or principle termed intelligence. There is only one supreme principle, evading all comprehension of its essential nature. It is the absolute. Man can think only in terms of the relative. Therefore, he sometimes defines it as the universal intelligence, the universal substance, as ether, life, mind, spirit, energy, truth, love, etc. His particular definition at any moment is governed by the particular relationship of the phenomena of being, in which he thinks of this principle at the moment. Mind is present in the lowest forms of life, in the protoplasm or cell. The protoplasm or cell perceives its environment, initiates motion, and chooses its food. All these are evidences of mind. As an organism develops and becomes more complex, the cells begin to specialize, some doing one thing and some another, but all of them showing intelligence. By association, their mind powers increase. Whereas in the beginning each function of life and each action is the result of conscious thought, the habitual actions become automatic or subconscious in order that the self-conscious mind may attend to other things. The new actions will, however, in turn become habitual, then automatic, then subconscious, in order that the mind again may be freed from this detail and advance to still other things. That is amazing. That is really cool. You cannot fathom your own mind. It has no boundaries. There are no limits to consciousness. Until very recently, it was said that matter, in its ultimate nature, was eternal, though all the forms thereof change. We were told that the buildings destroyed by fire, with nothing but a few ashes left, had gone up in smoke and gas, and that only the form of the manifestation had changed, that the essential substances were still in existence in different chemical formations. We were told that all forms of matter exist in the form of molecules, and these molecules are resolvable into certain smaller elements called atoms. Until recently, the atom was supposed to be the ultimate particle of matter. So until recently, scientists supposed that matter could be resolved into atoms, and that was final. But with the discovery of radium, it was found that the atom is made up of a large number of smaller particles called electrons, or ions, and these electrons vary according to the kind of atom that is under consideration. A hydrogen atom contains a different number of electrons than the oxygen atom, and so on. Now remember that he was saying that the electron is one that's supposed to be responsible for the usage of mind, consciousness. That makes a lot of sense too, because if this energy source, this mind, is the one responsible for being behind every single living thing, every single living creature, every single thing in existence, then it in turn has to be coming from the electron. For if hydrogen and oxygen both come from atoms, and it's only the different combinations of the electrons surrounding that specific atom which gives it its special properties. The atoms within the molecule are separated from each other by very great distances as compared with their diameter. The electrons in turn are separated from each other by distances as compared to the diameter, as are the planets in the solar system. When we remember that the molecule, which is the larger of the group, is so small that it cannot be discovered by the most powerful microscope, so small that you could place many millions of them into an orderly thimble, you can conceive how infinitesimal is the ultimate particle of matter, called the electron or ion. It has been discovered that the atoms of radium are constantly radiating their ions into space, producing what is called radioactivity, and these particles are apparently lost. They simply vanish. Finally, it has been discovered that other forms of matter besides radium are throwing off their ions into space, and that these seem to be absolutely lost in the process. Thus, the atoms of matter are constantly wasting away, so that the modern physicist no longer claims that matter is indestructible. It is in the constant state of flux. It is forever changing in form. What then is the director which controls the action of the ion, which indicates the form which it is to take? Mind is the director, and this direction is the process called creation. It will Whoa. Mind is what directs the electrons. There is a book. It is How Quantum Physicists Attract More Abundance by Greg Kuhn, and he is a quantum physicist. And he goes into detail about this experiment called the double slit experiment, and basically talks about the electron and how an electron can exist as both a wave and a particle. Oh wow. The electron exists as both a wave and a particle, but it only exists due to the fact of what you are observing it to be. And this double slit experiment, the electron exists as a wave before it is observed, and it exists as a particle when it is observed by the observer, and we are the observers. And whatever you are observing, you are grouping those electrons into certain categories, or grouping them into certain things as to what you are imagining them to be, what you are observing it to be. And it says right here, what then is the director which controls the action of the ion? And remember that the ion is the electron, which indicates the form which it is to take. Mind is the director, and this direction is the process called creation. It will therefore readily be seen that the basis upon which matter rests is mind or spirit. The spirit of a thing is therefore the thing itself. It is the spirit of a thing which attracts to itself the necessary electrons for its development from the ether, and which are gradually assembled by the law of growth. It is evident, therefore, that the saying of St. Paul is true: the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Many years ago, John Bovey Dodds wrote, "We have mounted from leap up to electricity, and though as we rose we found each successive substance more easily moved than the one below it, still we have not yet as found a single material that possesses inherent motion as its attribute. Lead, rock, earth, and water are moved by impulse. Air is moved by rarefaction, and electricity is moved by the positive and negative forces. True, we have mounted up, as before remarked, to electricity, but even this cannot move unless it is thrown out of balance in relation to quantity as to its positive and negative forces. Electricity is a fluid most inconceivable subtle, rarefied, and fine. It is commuted to require 4,000,000 particles of our air to make a speck as large as the smallest visible grain of sand. And yet electricity is more than 700,000 times finer than air. It is almost unparticled matter, and it is not only invisible, but so far as we can judge, it is imponderable. It cannot be seen, it cannot be weighed. 1,000 empty laden jars, capable of containing a gallon each, may be placed upon the nicest scale, and most accurately weighed. Then let these be filled with electricity, and, so far as human sagacity can determine, they will weigh no more. Hence to our perception 1,000 gallons weighs nothing. As electricity, in regard to motion, stands up upon poise, being completely balanced by the positive and negative forces that equalize each other, so it is easily perceived that if we mount one step higher, we must come to that substance whose nature is to move, and the result of that motion is thought power. It is mind. Hence it will be distinctly perceived, in view of the argument now offered, that we cannot, as philosophers, stop short of motion in the highest and most sublime substance in being. Let me read that again. Stop short of motion in the highest and most sublime substance in being. This conclusion, as the result of argument, is absolutely and positively irresistible, and challenges refutation. When we mount up in our contemplations through the various grades of matter, we see it continually brightening, as we press onward in our delightful career of rapture, until we arrive at the sublimated substance which can neither be seen or weighed, which moves with the velocity of 12,000,000 miles per minute, and can travel around this globe in an eighth part of a second. We are struck with astonishment and awe. But as this is not the last link of the immeasurable chain, we are forced to proceed onward till we arrive at the finest, most sublime and brilliant substance in being, a substance that possesses the attributes of inherent or self-motion and living power, and from which all other motion and power throughout the immeasurable universe are derived. This is the infinite mind, and possesses embodied form. It is a living being. This infinite mind comes in contact with electricity, gives to it motion, arms it with power, and through this mighty unseen agent moves the universe, and carries on all the multifarious operations of nature. Wow. What is the one thing that all people have in common? And that is the fact that they are aware of being. You may not know who you are, you may not know what you are, but you do know that you are. And is this awareness is God. Whatever it is that you are observing or believing to be true, these ions, these electricity, these electrons, they form in accordance to your observations. You are a creator. I'm sorry, you guys. That's just really, 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 really amazing. Hence, there is not a motion that transpires amidst the immensity of his work, from rolling globes to the falling leaf, but what originates in the eternal mind, and by him is performed, through electricity, as his agent. Mind is, therefore, the absolute perfection of all substances in being, and as it possesses self-motion, as its grand attribute, so it is, in this respect, exactly the reverse of all other substances, which are of themselves motionless. Mind or spirit is above all, and absolutely disposes and controls all. Hence, mind is imponderable, invisible, and eternal. Silence. In silence has the universe conceived, in silence doth the heart of man seek out that other heart to rest on. Nature's soul yearns ceaselessly to give its speechless calm unto her restless children as they roam far from the central place which is their home. Whilst know my mother, wouldst know my mother, wouldst know thy mother nature face to face, wouldst hear her silent heartbeats, close thine ears and still thine senses, wouldst thou feel her arms enfold thy being, thou must give thyself in uttermost abandon to her will, that she may teach thee the one truth. Be still. Be still, and from the silence shall arise a memory of forgotten mysteries, a healing peace descending on thy soul, shall bear it up to regions beyond words, where thou shalt learn the secrets of the earth, of wind and flame, and how the stars have birth. Then shalt thou know thine heritage of joy, borne on the pinions of the bird of life, tuned to the rhythm of revolving spheres, filling with all that breathes, with all that strives, for union with its prototype above, the silent comforter, whose name is love. Francis Poile, or Poile, P-O-I-L-E. Every day, in every way, we are getting better and better. I love you guys. That concludes chapter 18, and I'll see you guys on the other side of the galaxy for chapter 19. That being said, take care.